Hello, I'm Pastor Catherine Bowers at Evansburg United Methodist Church, and welcome to our message for Mother's Day, May 10th, 2020. When I was a kid, there was a children's show on TV called Romper Room. I loved that show. There were lots of new shows on TV for children in those days. There was Captain Kangaroo, you remember that? There was Sally Star. Philadelphia kids will remember that. And there was Romper Room, and that was my favorite. The host of Romper Room was a teacher, and I thought she was beautiful. She had this kind face, and I just was mesmerized by her. And at some point in every show, she would have all the children on the show sit down, and she would get out her magic mirror. And she would look in the mirror and she would say that she could see all the children in television land. And she would name some names. Every show she'd name some different names. She'd say, I see Mary and Karen. I see Walter. And I see Johnny and Jimmy. And I would watch that and I would just wait for my name. I wanted her to say my name so bad, Catherine or Kathy. I would have taken either one, but she never did. She never said my name all the times that I watched it. Nobody wants to be invisible. Everyone wants to be seen. As an adult thinking about it, I know there were names of children in my neighborhood whose names she never would have said. Pedro and Jamal and Angelina. I'm sure they never heard the names. But I believed that she could see us all through that mirror. And now I just realized it's just an ordinary hand mirror that you would have in your bathroom. So no magic there. Never in my wildest imagination did I ever think that one day I would be on the other side of the camera and I would be talking to all the people in internet land on the other side of the small screen. Never did I imagine that. I can't see you, but I wish I could. I really wish I could see you. I know you can see me. Happy Mother's Day to our mothers. I hope you get some good love today. Maybe you'll get to be with your mother. Or maybe if your mother's gone already, you'll be thinking about her. I've discovered over the years that Mother's Day can be complicated in churches. There are women who've lost children. There are women who haven't been able to have children. There are women who didn't want to have children and had to put up with people who didn't understand that. Just all kinds of situations. One year I was in a church where one of the families consisted of a father and two little girls, and the mother had left them. She had just left. And as I was getting ready for Mother's Day in the church, I was thinking, how do we do this? How do we do this? We need to see people. And people want to be seen, whatever their situation is. God sees you and knows whatever your experience is, both the joys and the sorrows. So Mother's Day can be complicated. 1 Peter 2:10 says, like newborn infants, long for spiritual milk so that by it you may grow into salvation. Our spirits need so much care. And like little babies, they're just hungry all the time. They have to eat every couple hours. We are hungry in our spirits. We need God. We need God often. We need the peace, the hope, the joy, the love that comes from God. We need a lot of encouragement sometimes and a lot of patience too. Later on in the letter, it says, like living stones, let yourselves be built into a spiritual house. So we are the stones that God is building into a spiritual house, into the church. And we are living stones. What a beautiful image. The church of God is a living thing. It is not bound by bricks and mortar. We love our church buildings. We've always known that the church is not the building, it's the people. And God has put us together to be the church. We're really getting tested on this now, whether the church is not the building in these days when we can't use our building too much. In the age of COVID-19, do you think God can keep the church together while we can't use the building? I think yes, God can do that. Amen to that. We can't do it, but God can. And as 1 Peter says, Jesus is our cornerstone. Jesus is the cornerstone of the building. Everything else is built on that. The cornerstone keeps everything lined up correctly and bears a lot of weight. I heard a story about a congregation that went through some rough times. It was a Baptist congregation. They had a fire in their building. It did a lot of damage, so they had to rebuild. And the insurance coverage was not going to be enough, so they started a capital fund. And they planned on rebuilding in the same place, and they made a plan. They had drawings made, and they were working hard on it. Then they had some more problems, and some people left the church, and they started another church nearby. And then when they got the estimate for the construction on what they wanted to do, it was way too high. It was a lot more money than they had. So they had a difficult struggle, and they continued trying to be faithful. And later, they got an offer from another church nearby that was leaving their building, and it was something that they could do, and it was even better than the building they had before. It wasn't the plan they had made, but it was an opportunity that God gave them. And I loved what the pastor said about it. He said, we thought we were building the church for God. God was building us into a church. And they're doing well now. What a beautiful thing. God builds us into the church. We don't build the church for God. God builds us into a church. If you have chosen to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, you are one of those living stones that God is building into a church. The best part of 1 Peter chapter 2 that I love is it says, once you were no people, but now you are a people. Now you are God's people. Once you were no people, but now you are God's people. Once we had no reason to be together, but now God has brought us together as living stones and built a spiritual house out of us. God sees each of us. God sees you and knows exactly where you should be. We are the living stones that God will use to build Christ's church in this world. Thanks be to God. You are a part of it, and everyone can be a part of it, a living stone in the spiritual house of God. Amen.